What is happening, Internet? Kwings here, and we're going to be doing the final riddle thing, as well as we're going to be going over something very important, because people on the Internet are trying to... This is the problem that I have with these people, these freaks, these weirdos, is when they tweet stuff, then DC listens, and they're like, oh, yeah, we can appease this minority group and do this stuff. Because this will make Batman more relatable. No, this will not make Batman more relatable. This will make Batman a quitter. This will make Batman a loser. This will make Batman just pathetic. This will defeat the whole purpose of what the character has been for the past 80 years. And this is why these people, they don't need Twitter. They need a psychologist. They need to get off the internet. You need to stop with this headcanon shit and get a life. Really getting sick of this. Then you have all these people that retweet them and they're like, oh yeah, totally, this is what it would be. Yeah, I get this. It's a great comic. Now, as far as I know, this is not official. And the guy's a good artist, but he's insane. The guy is one of those self-insert whack jobs. It's like, oh yeah, you know, because I dealt with this, so Batman totally... It's that whole bullshit that, you know, because a character you really like would, you know, in real life they would believe exactly like you. Like, you're a person that struggles with self-harm and all this other stuff, so of course Batman would do that. You're gay, so of course Batman would be gay. It's all bullshit. I really hate this stuff. But the thing that I hate the most about this, that really makes me angry, suicide is quitting. Okay? I was at a dark place in high school because I was tortured the shit out of by people in school, and I attempted self-harm. I had no purpose, I had no goals, I had nothing to fuel me on. I gave up. Right? It's called quitting. It's called being a failure. It's called you're done. You cash in. You don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. Batman is not that character. When he was in the alleyway with his parents cold next to him, he made a vow. He swore vengeance. For 80 plus years, he swore revenge. That is what fuels him on. He is not weak-minded, which suicide is for the weak and feeble. It's for people who have no way out. You are at your breaking point. Batman does not have a breaking point. He doesn't have emotions. He doesn't have feelings. He's buried them. He is not a selfish person. He is a selfless person. Most of the internet is selfish. Most of the internet is weak. That's right, Zelda. And most of the internet does this whole thing where they're like, hey, this superhero would totally do what I'm thinking. No, he wouldn't. Because the superhero, one, is fictional. And two, the superhero, especially this particular superhero, has a drive that fuels his entire life to the point where Batman has psychological issues. That's not, you know, something that we can disagree with. Batman has a lot of psychological problems. He is not well. He has pushed all of his emotions and feelings to the back of his brain. The only thing that he thinks about is other people and, you know, defeating crime, which is impossible. Batman's mission is to end all crime, which is not possible. Get off. 1 second, please. Okay, Zelda, it's time for basement. Come on, you wait. You wait. Come here. Yeah. You wait. You can't be climbing on the laptop. Let's go. Yes, I am angry. Well, I mean, Superman grew up in a loving environment. Batman's parents, and also you have to understand, people who have survivor's guilt, they develop a fear of death. I have survivor's guilt from a car accident, you know? I think about death all the time, but I never think about hurting myself. I think about, man, this is really bad, you know? I'm having panic. I'm having problems. I'm disturbed by what happened. I can see the flashbacks of the car accident. All this other stuff. But I never think about, wow, these thoughts are so much now. I'm just going to, you know, check out. I'm done. I had a moment of weakness as a teenager. And I was tortured in school, you know? Everybody was trying to pick a fight with me. Everybody was, you know, saying I was gay. Everyone was saying that I was dangerous. Everyone said that I was going to, you know, come to school and, like, yeet everybody. I didn't have a minute of peace. At all. And you know what I did? After I attempted something stupid, I made a goal for myself. I made a mission. And that mission that I strove for was to graduate early and get out of that hellhole. What did I do? Did I give up? No. Doubled up on my studies. I worked really hard, and I got out of that rat-infested, evil town. I didn't just say, well, my life sucks. Probably a good idea to just say sayonara. I was like, no, I'm not going to let these people beat me. I'm not going to let these people win. I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving. So long, Sucktown. I'm getting out of here. I'm going back to New York. That's exactly what I did. I doubled up on my studies. I took summer school. I did whatever I could in terms of papers and, you know, extra activities, whatever was necessary to get the credits to get out of there. I formulated a plan and I stuck with it. If I would have done that to begin with, then I wouldn't even attempted something stupid. But I wasn't thinking. I was being selfish. Batman is the exact opposite of me. When he was 8 years old and his parents were cold next to him, he swore that he would defeat crime, which is an impossible thing, and because of that, he deals a lot with his superego taking over his mind. When it comes to rational thinking, Batman does not think rationally. Batman only thinks about one or two things. Stop crime, protect the innocent. He puts himself at self-harm a lot in terms of, like, he doesn't want people to get hurt. He doesn't mind risking his own life, but he doesn't purposely put on his batsuit and be like, huh, today's a good day to find a place for me to die. He never has those thoughts. Now, the problem that I have with this is because all these characters, all these people online, these freaks and weirdos, someone at DC is going to see this, and they're going to be like, you know what? We don't have any stories for Batman going around like right now because this one individual is struggling with stuff. We're going to go and take 80 years of Batman's history. We're just going to flush it down the toilet. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the character means to people. This one person got lots of retweets and follows for them being crazy. So we're going to go and we're going to listen to this one person that doesn't know shit about Batman. That's a perfect thing that we can do. And you know DC's going to do that because DC's insane. DC is absolutely batshit crazy. And they cater to these weirdos and freaks and broken people. That's their demographic now. But what these people can't realize is, one, Batman is not a real character. Most characters, most people aren't able to deal with their grief a lot. They get their feelings hurt, they check out. You know? They have a self-defeating, like, mantra in their heads and they quit. Because ending your life is quitting. I hate to say it, but that means you give up. It's not, a strong person doesn't end their life. A weak person does. And before anybody says something, that's mean, grow a pair. Because that's what it is. You've come to the point where you're so defeated and beaten and broken down you have no hope. You can't see beyond your own selfish thoughts, and you give in to them. And that's what psychology taught for like 100 years. Until everybody was like, oh, my feelings, we have to change how, psychologists... What's the point of psychologists if you don't let them actually do their jobs? A psychologist's job is to help people who have mental illness. And now the world is filled with people with several types of mental illnesses that they enable. Okay? Psychologists don't help people anymore. They enable their selfish desires. That's what a psychologist does now. They don't actually help people. They don't help people with behavioral stuff. They don't help people with weird thoughts. They say embrace those weird thoughts. Be true to yourself. They don't actually help people. That's why I don't like psychologists anymore, is because they don't actually do anything. They're like social workers. They listen to you for a little bit, but they don't actually offer you anything because they're too worried to get sued because they can't actually help you. They can't say, it's probably not a good idea for you to be wearing a dress as a man. They can't say that. They did say that for hundreds and hundreds of years, but now they can't because cultural society has changed. But that person's going to, continue to be delusional for their whole life. So you're actually helping that person? No. You're just enabling them to do whatever they want with their lifestyle. Same thing with people who have, alcohol problems now. They actually used to help alcoholics. Say, hey, you probably shouldn't be drinking so much. Now they don't even really deal with the problem anymore. Even Alcoholics Anonymous, they don't even really talk about the problem of drinking. They talk about other things. But they don't actually address the problem anymore. So what is the point of these psychologists if they actually don't help people who are mentally ill? That help people with addiction and all this other stuff. They don't actually do that anymore. So what's the point of them? They just get paid to sit in a chair and listen to you? But they don't actually offer anything that helps you? I don't understand the point. When I was in psychology stuff for my car accident, they didn't actually help me. All they did was every time I went there, they were like, well, how does this make you feel? It's like, well, it makes me feel like this. I almost died. I have these horrible thoughts, with all this flashing stuff that happens. I remember the car accident in vivid detail. What am I supposed to do? They did nothing. Nothing. Every time I went to them, I stopped going because they just had me relive the accident over and over and over and over and over again. And this was 20 years ago. Okay? This was 20 years ago psychiatrists were this useless. They just sit there on their fancy couch with their pen and paper, and they know how to help you, but they won't. They don't care. It's just become a job. They don't actually, in society, like this gentleman on Twitter, he is mentally disturbed. He is not well. And you want to know what that comic book that he wrote is going to give people? It's going to give reinforcement for his dark thoughts. Nobody but me is going to say suicide is weak-minded. People are going to be like, oh, yeah, man, I can relate to this, I struggle with this all the time, too, blah, 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 blah. They're not going to say you need help or, you need to talk to a hotline. They're not going to say any of that. They're just going to go, yeah, Batman is totally this way because you say he is. Now, the reason why I say Batman the way he is I'm backed by 80 years of facts! Not emotion. Facts. Literal comics and media and video games. Facts! Not feelings. It is not an opinion, it is a fact. He is not suicidal. He's never been brought up. Until now. I'm just really getting sick of this because somebody at DC who's mentally deranged is going to see this viral fan headcanon and they're going to be like, yeah, let's incorporate this into the books. They do it every single time. The stuff with Tim Drake was fan canon. Was never realized. It was just kind of like fan fiction that people talked about on the internet. Wouldn't it be great if Connor and Tim were this way? Just talking about that for 20 years. Then what happened? More and more people kept doing the headcanon nonsense. What happened to Tim? So you're telling me that nothing is going to come of like all this nonsense? The dude almost has like 1 million retweets of sycophants, you know, saying the same thing. And none of these people, none of them, none are Batman fans. Not one understands the character, understands the psychology, understands what the character even means to people. They're using them because this is what they think. I know how these freaks and weirdos think. They think because Batman wears all black that he's sitting around cutting himself, listening to punk or emo music, and because of the way he dresses, that's how he feels inside. When he's dead inside! He has no emotion. He has no feeling because he's buried it. Because he's taken his pain and his suffering and he uses it as a weapon. He weaponizes his grief. He weaponizes his pain. He weaponizes his sorrow. For what? For an endless crusade he will never win. And that in itself is crazy. But it's crazy with a purpose. Do you understand the difference? What Batman does is not psychologically sound. But he does it because that is his life's purpose. Everyone in his family ends up leaving him over time because he is secluded, he is alone, he is waging an endless war that he will never win. But he does it anyway. Why? Because he is bigger than himself. He is a selfless individual. His mind is selfless. His actions are selfless. He doesn't have time to think about his selfish thoughts. Which that is what suicide is. Selfishness. Quitting. Failure. Defeated. A strong person does not end themselves. A weak person does. A strong person fights and figures it out and pulls themselves up from failure. A weak person checks out. And Batman is not weak. He is a strong character that millions and millions of people are inspired to be like. Not jumping off rooftops and beating up, criminals. No, it has to do with his drive, his motivation, his goals, his aspirations. Lots of people see elements of Batman in their own life. Because Batman is a character that has impossible odds he faces every day in the DC universe. He is a flesh and blood character. He is a human, flawed individual that is mortal in a world filled with gods and monsters. And yet he dons his cape and cowl and he goes out and he fights anyway. Because his life is not his own. It belongs to his parents who are gone. And until he feels that the mission is over, which it will never be over, he will never give up. That is why he pulls himself up from pain. That is why he pulls himself up from half-death. He's not a samurai looking for a place to die. He is a hero trying to save as many people as he can before he's eventually killed. There is a difference. And I'm sick of people thinking there isn't. Because these weirdos, these freaks, these tourists, they always influence what DC does. DC doesn't listen to the fans. They listen to the modern audience because they think the modern audience has their lives together. Where this individual on Twitter is clearly deranged to make a comic like that. They're hurting. My advice to them, call a hotline, get off Twitter. Because what you're doing is going to cause more harm than good. You're going to tell people who are struggling with that, hey, it's okay because Batman did that too. You can't use characters like that. That's headcanon bullshit. Be respectful of the character. Be respectful of who they are, what they represent. You're telling the whole world that Batman is a quitter and Batman is a fighter. There's a difference between fighting and quitting. Batman has never given up. Even when he was lying like in a pool of his own blood and he could barely move, he still kept fighting. There's been many times where Batman's almost been killed. He didn't just lie there waiting for death. He kept fighting. Why? Because the people of Gotham depend on him. Even people he's never met, he will risk his life for. And he will push himself beyond his limits. Because his mission is no family member, no child will ever lose a family figure, like a mother or father, to crime as long as he's alive. He will never let an 8-year-old boy or girl suffer the way that he did. That's what drives him. And then his mission expands. Then it's more than just organized crime. It's crime around the world. It's costume criminals. It's serial killers. It's rapists. It's whatever Batman decides the mission becomes. But the mission is always clear. Defeat evil. Stop evil. No matter the cost. He doesn't care about himself. He's not a wound-up soldier that's looking for the perfect battlefield to die. He's trying to save as many people as possible. A suicidal person is always looking for a way that they can make a glorious end for themselves. Batman doesn't even think about that stuff. And like I said, it's not normal. It's not normal to bury your entire emotions and not to live your life. It's because of this problem that Bruce has that he cannot separate his mission from his life. Whether he's wearing the mask of Batman or Bruce Wayne. He can't stop. Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon, Tim, all these people can pause the mission. They can stop thinking about it. When Batman closes his eyes for a few hours and sleeps, he still thinks about his mission. It's why it's hard for him to be with other women. It's why it's hard for him to make friendships. It's why it's hard for him to live his life outside of being the Dark Knight. He can't do it. He is so broken and disturbed in his own mind that he can't face the reality, which is he just needs to grieve. Batman could easily become a better person if he would just accept his parents' death and accept that it wasn't his fault. He blames himself. It's my fault they walked down that alleyway. It's my fault that we went to that movie. It's my fault that we had an argument and they died. Everything is because of me. He blames himself constantly, but he doesn't quit. But if he would actually accept what happened wasn't his fault, like Alfred and so many people have been telling him his whole life, then Batman could move on. There wouldn't need to be a Batman. But he can't do it. Because this is the only way that his parents still live. With his vow. With his mission. His parents feel real to him when he's out there doing good. When he's fighting for justice against injustice. When he's saving the innocent from the wicked. His parents are still alive in his mind. And he can't let go of them. And there's been several comics over the years that have dealt with Batman's, codependence with his parents. They even mentioned it in the Mask of the Phantasm movie. The Mask of the Phantasm movie, Andrea Beaumont says the only person who's still controlled by his parents is you. She said that and hurt him and realized how bad that was that she did. But what she said wasn't wrong. It was true. The reason why Batman got so hurt is because he even, every once in a while he does realize what I'm doing is completely insane. I have no life. I have no friends. I have nothing but the mission. And like I said, it's not normal. It's not like Batman is a sane character. I don't believe Batman is a sane character. He doesn't need to be sane to be a hero. You don't have to be a person who society deems as normal in order to do good things. Batman uses his pain, his guilt, his suffering, his sadness, and he weaponizes it. He would never, ever, ever, ever hurt himself because he never had time. You explain to me, Internet. When did Batman have time? The moment his parents died, he grew up. As a child, he knew that he couldn't do anything. So what did he do? He became an A+ student and aced everything that he could. And as a child, he learned everything that he could. Everything that was available to like a, honor student child, he learned. He graduated school at such a alarming rate that by the time he was 15 years old, he was traveling the world. When did he have time? When did he have time to hurt himself? You tell me. I want to know. He graduated school very early. He breezed through grade school like it was nothing. He knew more than his teachers because he did nothing but put his life into study, to work mode. Fueled by vengeance. Fueled by revenge. Using his pain as a method, as a tool, not as a hindrance. When did he have time? When did he have time when he was traveling the world and going to Asia and learning several different martial arts? When did he have time when he went into college at the time of 18 years old to study criminology and forensic science? When did he have time when he was 20 years old to go and learn how to be a pickpocket and to be an escape artist? When did he have time to lose himself to his own selfish thoughts? The answer is never! Because he doesn't think for himself. You, Twitter person, you think with your own thoughts. You're controlled by your own thoughts. Batman is a character that is fueled by his grief. It is his power. It is his weapon. And it is his kryptonite. But even though things get very difficult for him and he loses more time than he wins, he stands up again. He has never quit. In the New 52, when he and the Joker had their final battle and Batman died and Joker died, the only reason that Batman did not come back right away is because he had amnesia. Batman was so broken and defeated at that point that he completely just, the Bruce Wayne and the Batman persona was gone. He was an entirely new person. Everything was rewritten. Look at the Arkham games. What does Batman do at the end of the Arkham games? The end of the Arkham game, we're not even going to count the Suicide Squad. Screw the Suicide Squad. That doesn't matter. What is the ending of Batman Arkham Knight? After Bruce Wayne fakes his death, what does he do? Does he become a normal person? Does he create a new identity like in The Dark Knight Rises? Where, by the way, The Dark Knight Rises, Nolan is showing that it is not healthy to be Batman. The reason why he gives Bruce Wayne a happy ending is because he believes Bruce Wayne deserved a happy ending. Because he said the Batman in the comics and on TV would never have a happy ending because he would never stop. He says, I gave Bruce an out. Bruce Wayne was not completely controlled by his emotions because of Rachel Dawes in that universe. Bruce Wayne was a character like Michael Keaton's Batman where he put on the suit and he went and fought crime. In a way, he confronted his grief. He became a symbol. But also, he quit. He thought that what he did with Gotham was enough and he could leave, the Batman legacy to another. That was Nolan's interpretation. That is not the normal interpretation of Batman. The normal interpretation of Batman is what happens at the end of Arkham Knight. Batman does not find peace. Peace for Batman is being left alone in his crusade, his endless, never-ending crusade. What does he do at the end of Arkham Knight, ladies and gentlemen? What does Batman do? He becomes a wraith in the mind of criminals. He becomes a shadow. He gives up his actual humanity, and he becomes like the terror in the back of criminals' minds. He cuts off all his family ties. He cuts off all his chains to humanity, and he becomes something more. A legend that is more than Batman can be. Batman can't exist. And also, here's another thing that he does. He uses fear and weaponizes it as a drug. He incorporates and steals Scarecrow's technology and makes it worse. Batman wouldn't do that, but this version of Arkham Batman, once he reinvents himself, he actually employs the tactics of his enemies. That is not a sane individual. That is not a normal person. You know, he's gone to self. He isn't doing anything selfish. He believes in his mind that as long as he lives, as long as his body can move, he's going to keep fighting. Look at the animated series Batman. Here's another instance. Batman Beyond Universe. Why did Batman quit? What was the sole reason that Batman quit? Is it because he was looking for a place to die like a samurai? No. The reason why Batman Beyond, Bruce Wayne quit, is he had a heart attack, and in his desperation, he grabbed the weapon of his enemies, and it terrified him. He didn't think about using the weapon on himself. He was going to use the weapon on another person. He was going to be the cowardly criminal that he fought against his entire career. That is why he quit. Because he realized that his body was getting older, and he is going to make a mistake, and he's going to hurt someone just like they hurt his family, just like they hurt him. The fact that they used the symbolism of the gun with Bruce Wayne in his darkest moment where he almost died, and he used the tool that he had been fighting against his entire career, you can't write that type of poetry. The symbolism of that is incredible. But that's why he quit. Because he realized eventually, I'm going to kill somebody, and I need to stop. But did he stop when Terry McGinnis became Batman? He became the guy in the chair. He could have just stayed up in stately Wayne Manor and done nothing. But when a younger Batman was out in the field, he was still the Batman behind the computer. Look at Frank Miller, The Dark Knight Returns. Batman had a lot of, we'll say, depressing thoughts, and he was, turning himself to alcohol, and the world had changed a lot, and there wasn't need for a Batman anymore, and Robin was dead. Jason Todd's death was the catalyst to make him retire. Because he blamed himself for Jason's death. Jason's death was the sole reason that Batman quit. He didn't quit for himself, he quit because he caused someone else, someone much younger than him who had a bright future ahead of them, to die. Someone who was following his mission. And he cared enough to stop. Because he realized what I'm doing is not right. But the problem is Gotham didn't let him stop forever. He came back as an older man because the war never stopped. It was just not even paused. He was ignoring the siren's call for battle. And it tore away with him. That's why he became an alcoholic in the Frank Miller universe. He was haunted by his thoughts. He never stopped thinking about it. He just was too much of a coward to put the suit on. There was a catalyst and a reason why he did what he did. Why he became Batman again as an older man. Why he fought Superman. He had a purpose and a reason again. The only time that Batman ever stops is when he can't move. When he can't actually lift a finger. When he is so broken and battered that he can't do anything. The only reason Batman stopped in Nightfall is he had his back broken. Which the reason why life was so difficult for Bruce is because now Bruce had to confront all his thoughts. All these people say that Chuck Dixon doesn't know Batman. You don't understand Batman if you don't read Nightfall. The reason why Bruce is so tortured, being paralyzed, is because now he is at the mercy of all the thoughts that he buried deep in his subconscious, because they all rose to the surface. He had no way to fight them. He became a miserable, sad, weak, useless man. And he gave in to guilt. And he gave in to everything. And he couldn't be Batman anymore because he had no purpose. That would be a Batman that might have checked out. But even that Batman didn't give up. What did he do? He found out that there is a slim chance, a 1% chance, that his back can be healed. And what does he do? Does he be like, there's only a 1% chance I'm going to survive this? He goes. He leaves Gotham to Dick and Tim and even crazy Jim Ball Valley, and he leaves because there is a 1% chance that he will be healed. He takes it. Do you guys understand how this character works? Any other character would give up. The sole purpose of Batman is he never quits. Everybody says, what is Batman's superpower? It's what they say in Batman Brave and the Bold. Batman's superpower is he never stops fighting. No matter the odds, no matter the outcome, it doesn't matter. He doesn't stop. That is what makes him a force to be reckoned with. That is why people think that he is like this freakish creature that cannot die. Is no matter what people do to him, he rises. To the point where people in Gotham think he's not even human. The Dark Knight Rises Bruce Wayne is not a good interpretation of Batman. Nolan even admitted that. Nolan's Batman found peace. Nolan's Batman found a way out. Nolan's Batman was deeply in love with his best friend, with Rachel Dawes. The reason why Nolan's Batman quit is because he was so in tune to his emotions at the death of Rachel and the fact that the city hated them, like hated him, that he quit. He thought the best thing for Gotham would be to hang up the cape and cowl, and that life would get better for Gotham if, like, they used Harvey's death as, like, basically a launching point to show, you know, that Harvey Dent was the White Knight of Gotham. Everything good that Batman did became Harvey Dent. Everything bad that the Joker did became Batman. They used Batman as a scapegoat in the Nolan universe. That's why he had to leave. It's not something real Batman would do. It's not something the animated series Batman did. It's not something the Arkham Batman did. It's not even something the Brave and the Bold, like really kooky Batman from Cartoon Network did. That Batman never gave up. That Batman was fueled by his, you know, mission of vengeance. He was a comical Batman, sure, but he had the same principles. He had the same motive. But he also believed in legacy. The one thing that made the Batman Brave and the Bold Batman so interesting is he actually did get married. He married Selina Kyle. He had a son, Damian. He was teaching his son to be Robin. He was still Batman. He had Dick Grayson, you know, take over for him permanently. But he was still training Damian, and he still realized that Gotham will always need a Batman. So he continued the war on crime through his lineage. Even though it was, you know, a made-up scenario. And Alfred was like, in the future, Batman, you know, he has his suit all pressed because he's going to run into Catwoman. Because in that universe, he's madly in love with Catwoman. They're very similar. Split right down the center. But that Batman takes his mission a little bit differently. He believes that he needs a lineage. He needs family in order to continue the fight. Whereas every other Batman believes it's not good to bring in other people because it's my fight. And every time he brings people into his fight, they die. Or they get hurt. And Batman is not completely crazy where he's like, you know what? All-Star Batman is crazy and calls all his Robins, his lieutenants and stuff like that. But that's Frank Miller. Frank Miller took the, you know, mission of Batman to the extremes because Frank Miller is a very disturbed individual. To say otherwise is to just, you know, ignore the problem. Frank Miller has a lot of problems. Which is why people make fun of him. But you're basically making fun of a mentally ill person. Think about that for a second. And Frank did go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, by the way. And society is kind of enabling Frank Miller to act the way he does. But yeah, you're not ready for this fight. When these freaks and weirdos and these tourists, terrorists, when they go and they do all this headcanon shit, they don't know the bulldog that they're getting ready to fight. Because they have no idea. It's not my opinion, it's fact. I'm backed by 80 years of facts, not opinions. Hundreds of Batman stories discuss this and show that Batman has never given up, never quitted. He's never had a defeatist mindset. Unless he was completely broken in the 90s. And even then, he's still, with impossible odds, he went to, I believe it was Tibet or some other place and got an experimental surgery for his back. And then, because it'd been like months that he's actually been fighting, he had to relearn how to fight. So his back wasn't even fully repaired, and he went back and he met with Shiva and some other people and learned how to fight again. And he wasn't even fully healed yet. Like, his surgery might not even be... I believe they said in the book that it's a miracle that he's still standing. But he'll never walk again, so he had to make it look like Bruce Wayne was using a cane and all this other stuff. And even though there could be a slim possibility that he could, like, you know, have his back completely broken forever, permanently, he goes and he enlists with a bunch of, like, killer ninjas and starts training all over again. Even with the slim possibility that he could be paralyzed for life. He does it anyway. Because he can't stop. But like I said, what's probably going to happen is this individual, this very disturbed individual, is going to spark curiosity with DC, because DC is always looking for ideas, and they're going to do something stupid. They're going to take 80 years of history and they're just going to flush it down the toilet. Because that's what DC does. DC doesn't know how to be creative anymore. They just look on Twitter and they're like, oh, this got lots of retweets. We'll make a story about this. Because one person might find this relatable. They don't think about the millions of fans that would be annoyed. They don't care about that. They care about this person got a lot of retweets and stuff. But here's the thing. Stupid takes always get traction online. Because there's more stupid people than smart. That's why. Stupidity attracts stupid. It's like a magnet. Or like a bug zapper. When you give a stupid person the spotlight, it makes more stupid people. Nah, they won't listen to me. They'll call me a white supremacist or something. They don't care. DC would judge me based on my skin color and all this other stuff and make me a villain or something like that. I already had people saying, this is why Alan Moore hates nerds. It's like, Alan Moore hates rational people? And of course, that person had a rainbow flag in their response to me. So, I mean, it's not even like... I'm not even concerned by it because it's just, you know... These people leap to defend others, like if you criticize them. You know? This is why Alan Moore hates nerds. It's like, so Alan Moore hates intelligent people that can actually, you know, debate him into the ground. Alan Moore doesn't like people that actually know how the correct characterization of a Batman character is supposed to be. Something that's had like 80 years of history. So Alan Moore doesn't like the truth. Alan Moore doesn't like people that are intelligent. Alan Moore doesn't like people that know what they're talking about. That makes sense? Alan Moore became a crazy person. You know? The thing is, what people don't realize about superheroes is superheroes always put their lives at risk. Superheroes are always trying so hard to do what's right, no matter the cost. That doesn't make them suicidal. That makes them heroes. Are you saying that a firefighter, somebody who risks their lives every day, is doing it because they're trying to hurt themselves? Firefighters are selfless people that have basically said, I'm going to put my life in jeopardy in order to help people. They're not going out there for a death wish. Same thing with police officers. Police officers don't put the badge on and have people point weapons at them every day so that they can just do it for the thrill. There's risk involved. Every day a police officer's family has to realize their dad or mom might not come home. The likelihood of a firefighter or a police officer coming home from duty is very rare every night. As a policeman's family, we lived with that fear every day until Grandpa retired. You know? It's just something that you have to be prepared for because anything can happen. A traffic stop could go wrong. Somebody could, get you when you're at a donut shop. I know, stereotypical, but, somebody could get you off duty. Anything can happen. They're not looking for a place to die like a suicidal samurai. They're doing their job to help people, to put their own lives at jeopardy in order to do what they believe is right. Whether it's a firefighter, a police officer, those type of people do what superheroes do in the comics. They risk their lives every day. They put themselves in jeopardy to help someone who's in trouble. That's not a suicidal person. That's a selfless person. And people need to learn the difference in society today. Because the 2020s is seriously screwed up. Most of you guys who are growing up in the 2020s, you have bad role models, you have bad ideology, you have bad morals, you have bad convictions, bad principles, you have no guiding light, you have no aspirations, no goals. All you do is complain. All you do is riot. All you do is loot. All you do is harm people with violence. All you do is argue. All you do is you put your self-virtue above other people. None of these generations, the boomers, Generation X, half of millennials are crazy, but not all millennials are crazy. 3 generations before you at least understand certain things, certain qualities of humanity. The people from the 2020s do not. The people from the 2020s have bad influences. It's like a kid who just goes in with the wrong crowd. They're following the wrong things. And what they don't realize is them as being like young adults, they're influencing their little brother or sister who sees what they're doing. And then they're going to be worse than them. People need to have role models. People need to have fictional superheroes that do good things and fight, villains and protect innocent people, because you're not going to get that reinforcement from society anymore, because society has viewed the world as anti-heroes, not heroes. They put police and firefighters in a bad light nowadays. They don't see them as righteous, good people. They see them as villains in a story that the 2020s is orchestrating. They don't look at our soldiers in a good way either. They don't see them going off to fight a war. They see them putting on like a corporation and fighting for the benefit of not the interests of the American people, but of some corporations behind backroom deals. They don't even like soldiers anymore. They think soldiers are bad, when soldiers are actually out there dying every day so that you can act like an asshole. Think about that. You have nothing. You strive for nothing. You think about nothing. People of the 2020s. That is why a majority of you are evil. And that's why you piss off Gen Xers. That's why you really tick off millennials, is because Gen Xers and millennials, we have a breaking point. We have a point where we will not go that far. We have something that is tethering us to reality. You do not. You're reinforced by your media to be crazy. You're reinforced by your politicians to be crazy. You're reinforced by groups online to be crazy. And when somebody comes up to you that is actually doing the right thing, you villainize them. Think about that. The only reason I have morals and convictions is because I'm part of Gen X. The reason why I get so angry and I don't let people get any shit past me is because I actually have something called morality. I have principles. I have strength of will. I cannot stand to see evil thrive. Evil to be accepted. Evil to be acknowledged. I also have a point that I won't go past either. Because I know that, that's going too far. I shouldn't do that. I haven't completely gotten rid of my Jiminy Cricket. To some extent. If people had morality and convictions today, and principles, you want to know who I would argue is suicidal? These protesters. These protesters are looking to become martyrs for their cause, and they do stupid stuff to get killed. They put themselves in harm's way where the rest of us would be like, you know what, I'm going to go picket on the sidewalk, and I'm going to go express my concern, but I'm not going to interfere with a police officer and get shot. You know, I'm not going to give them an excuse to harm me. I'm going to voice my opinion with my voice, not violence. These people that put themselves in the spotlight to purposely mess with things, you know, they're running out into the road like, you know, Truck-kun in an anime. They are adamantly searching for their own death so that they can get fame and glory. Those people are suicidal. Those are the people you should be making comics on. Like that lady who was just gunned down. She was not a good person. She's seen as a good person. She was a mother. Well, why wasn't she home with her kids? Why did she go out of her way to go and harass people that ended up, you know, losing her life over? Was it worth it? Was it really worth it? Those kids now have no mom. The other mom is going to jail because she was, what do they call that? An accessory to that type of behavior? Which they're calling attempted murder now. So the other mom is an accessory to attempted murder. So those kids have no mother figure at all. Was it worth it? Those people were so selfish that they couldn't even think about the lives that they had in their own life. They didn't care about their kids. Obviously they didn't care about their kids. They were going across state lines and doing stupid shit. They couldn't look past their own, you know, selfish thoughts, selfish behavior, and suicidal tendencies. And they left widowed tons of children and family members. For what? You tell me, what was the reason? So that people could be like, hey, we have another one who died for our cause. Uh-huh. And? What was the point? There was no point. In fact, the saddest thing about all of this is if that bitch would have actually turned off her car and got out, she would still be alive. She could still be protesting. And I saw her last moments. I've seen all the videos. I have all the evidence to conclude that she was a terrible person. She was given tons of verbal warnings. People said, oh, she was given conflicted warnings. The only person that says drive was her spouse. None of the police there, and even in the police report, said she could drive. They said clearly, get out of the car. Out of the car now. Turn off the vehicle, get out. None of them said you could go. None. That's a false reality that's being spun by people online. You can clearly hear on the tape the only one that says go, go, go is the spouse of the woman. They were going to be detained. They were going to be arrested because they were doing illegal stuff. You know? But had they just been at home angry tweeting, or if they would have been on the sidewalk like protesting correctly, there'd be no problems. And yeah, if you interfere with police business or a federal agent, you're putting your life in jeopardy. You don't need to do that. No one is going to care about your life. You're being used as a tool by other people. You will achieve nothing. And the people in your life that you left, they're, you know, you're gone. They have no one. So why do they do this stuff? Because they're sick. Because we live in a society where we actually enable mental illness every single day. And it's going to get worse. Because as I said, these people have no morals, they have no convictions, they have no principles. They also don't know what the word no means. They smile, they smirk, they hold up their phones. They act condescending, saying they're not doing anything wrong. And then when, you know, their actions catch up to them, they're still playing the victim. I'll be very frank. You cannot spit in a police officer's face, you'll get arrested. Actions have consequences. If you point a weapon at an officer, they're not going to talk you down, they're going to shoot you. If you do anything to jeopardize the life of another person, even a person with a badge, there will be consequences. You can't do that kind of stuff. You throw a brick, you throw a firebomb, any of that stuff, you're playing Russian roulette with your life. And it's not something that people should be like, you know, oh, wow, that's new to me. It's like, you should have been taught this a long time ago. You can't do this. There are right ways of doing things and there are wrong ways. And society keeps telling people the wrong way of doing things. And I'm sick of it. A morally righteous person does not do evil acts. It doesn't happen. A morally righteous person is not a quitter. Look at me. If Batman is a person that quits, right? I have an immense debt to the IRS. I haven't gotten to enjoy any of my YouTube career, any of my money, nothing. It all is siphoned by the U.S. Treasury since 2012. Disney Infinity, every Batman game I've ever covered. I've not gotten to enjoy even a millisecond of my YouTube success. No house, no fancy tools, nothing. No nice equipment. I'm using crappy laptops that can barely do 1080p to stream. I have a television that's 13 years old that still works, but it's a 55-inch LCD. Has no 4K in it, has no internet. It's how I live stream. I haven't been able to do anything with my supposed wealth. I haven't gotten to do anything at all. Not one purchase has ever been for myself. It's always been for my business. Because I've been living with, you know, an immense debt thanks to the IRS's huge mistake of viewing me as a corporation instead of a limited liability company. They slammed me with all kinds of fees that I could never pay, and I've been indebted to them forever. And it's not until 2030 that I'll actually get out of this hellhole. I've been in purgatory for 2020, or since 2012, you know? An endless purgatory. I have a nerve disease in my legs. I'm losing the ability to walk. Have I given up? No. I pull myself up in pain with electricity searing through my left leg every single day. I walk down those stairs and I get to this seat where I stream. And I am in agony most days. Even when I play the games and I'm sitting there with Amber, I'm doing my best to act like there is nothing wrong. When I am in physical agony, and I still push through it. I have lots of reasons to be weak and to say adios, but I am a fighter. I've had smear campaigns. I have been swatted where people tried to end my life because they don't like what I have to say. I still say it. Why? Because I have justice that burns through my veins. Because I was inspired by a fictional character that does not stop. No matter what happens to his body, to his mind, to his life, to his finances, he keeps going. That is good motivation for people. That is what people need to aspire to be, not a quitter. I had to bury my son. My wife and I haven't stopped trying to have kids. So to make Batman even joking about and getting all these idiots to retweet this nonsense. That is not who Batman is. Batman is an individual that will never stop. He is a creature of unbreakable will. And you can have unbreakable will too. If I can do it, and I'm just this miserable little YouTuber that nobody knows, and I can pull myself out of bed with searing electrical shocks, and I fall a lot. I fall right on my face because my leg gives out. I could stay in bed and suffer every day. And the pain gets worse. I can't play the drums anymore. I can't drive. I still live my life. I still try to help out around the house. Batman does not quit, and neither do I. When life hands you a bad flush, you get another deck. Because let me tell you, life is full of ups and downs, pain and suffering. It's not wine and roses. When life gets hard, what are you going to do? You're going to keep going? You're going to rise? Or are you going to fall? My favorite thing in the world is what was in that movie, Batman Begins, that really helped me after my car accident. Why do we fall? So we can learn to pick ourselves up again. Why do our parents not pick us up when we fall as kids? Because we need to learn to pick ourselves up and rise. Even though our legs have scabs from falling off our bike, even if somebody pushes us in school, even if we lose our job, you have to fail to succeed. Failure is not the end, it's the beginning. I've been shadow banned. In all rights and purposes, Amber and I should quit YouTube, right when it happened. This October will be 6 years of being shadow banned on the internet. 6 years. We still keep going. So I don't appreciate that people would have the audacity to say a character that is known for never quitting, that he quit, that he gave up. That really, really angered me today. Yeah, that's the lesson that people need to learn. Life is not all sunshine and flowers. Life is hard. If you're a gamer, you can understand that life is like playing on hard mode. Or if you're a Pennsylvania native, life is like our roads. It's full of bumps and potholes. And if you're a Pennsylvania native, you know what I'm talking about. Our roads are crap. Our roads always have problems. There's no such thing as a smooth road in Pennsylvania. And they never get around to fixing the roads. When they do actually fix the road, then there's another road that breaks down. Life is like a bumpy road. If it's smooth for you, you need to figure out what's going on in your life that you're not experiencing life. Because if you do not, when that smooth road starts to get bumpy, you're going to start to have very dangerous thoughts. Because you've never failed before. You've never lost. And let me tell you, when you lose, it's a good teacher. Because it teaches you to get better and stronger. If you give up at the first sign of trouble or defeat, then you will always be a quitter. And I know that people are more than capable of that. I'm a nobody, and I'm able to do what I'm able to do. I'm tucked away in some small corner of the internet where nobody knows I still exist. And I still work hard every day. I have goals and I have reasons for doing what I'm doing. I have to pay back something that wasn't my fault. I could blame everybody else and say, I'm not paying this. But I've been paying it back even though it wasn't my fault. Because I know that as an authority figure, those people can throw me in jail. They can take everything I own. They can make my wife suffer. They can make my family suffer. So as long as I'm able to work to pay off that debt, I'm going to do that. No matter what it does to me. I literally had a heart attack last year. I had a minor heart attack. I'm still going. But anyway, we finished the Riddler stuff. We'll do the Cyrus Pickney thing another day as a bonus. I don't really feel like doing that, but I felt like I needed to talk about this stuff because maybe there's somebody out there who is feeling like they're defeated in life and that they can't do it. They have emotional damage, they have physical damage, they have illness, and they don't want to keep fighting. You have to keep fighting. You're not a quitter. I know you're not. I've been where you are. I had a moment of weakness when I was a teenager, and my entire life has gotten worse than when I was a teenager, and I still pull myself up from the gutter every day with literal electric shocks in my leg, which you cannot believe how painful that is. It comes and goes. Imagine stepping out of bed and all of a sudden your leg goes out like it's a marionette and your whole body ends up falling down and smashing into something. Whether it's on a hard floor surface, going down the stairs, or just like, you know, in the comfort of your own bedroom where there's a rug and you fall. Amber jokes about it a lot, but I fall multiple times a week. And when I get really old, that's going to be a big problem because old people's bones are brittle. My bones are strong. I drink a lot of milk. I have a lot of vitamin D. My bones are reinforced. They're like adamantium. You know, I do exercises the best I can. Like with push-ups and sit-ups and things like that. Even though it hurts like crazy, I still do them. But yeah, life is hard. Everybody has, like, you know, some cross to bear in life. You just have to bear that cross. But I'm very quiet when YouTube friends kill themselves, but I think that them quitting was a bad decision. I don't view suicide as the same way other people as it was, you know, a great tragedy. The tragedy is that they quit. They quit on themselves, they quit on their family, they quit on their job, they quit on their, you know, they just threw in the towel. I can't relate to that. My life was way worse than them. And they left. And what they don't think about is they don't think about the people that they leave behind. They don't think about the friends. They don't think about their family. They only think about themselves. That's why I hate that stuff so much. You know? You never think about who you leave behind. They don't think about the survivors. They only think about themselves. But anyway, I got to get Amber up and get her birthday stream going, so. Yep. Life is pain. Yep. Life is pain. Anybody who tells you different is selling something, exactly. Yep. Life is not all cushions and roses and rainbows and stuff like that. And just because you have emotional problems, it doesn't mean that, you know, your life is over. It means you need to work on those emotional problems. You have to accept yourself for who you are. You have to accept yourself for what you can't be.
Come and say hello if you have time.
You know, just because you can't be a rocket scientist doesn't mean that you need to quit. Just because you can't be a firefighter, you know, and you're an office worker or whatever, doesn't mean that you didn't get to do what you wanted in life. You can find all kinds of things around you if you look. The problem is people are only looking at what's right in front of them. They're not looking at everything that surrounds them. They're looking at everything in a first-person perspective instead of from a third-person. When there's so much stuff around you that you can't see when you're in a third-person perspective. When you're in a first-person perspective, you can only see what's right in front of your eyes. We need to look at ourselves as we're basically a video game character. That's the best way to deal with it. Then you become less of a selfish person and more of a person that's consciously aware of everything that's happening around you. That's my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. But I hope you guys will support Amber's birthday stream. She's going to be playing a game called Odin Sphere. And I'm going to go wake her up, okay? But I'm really sick of these. These weirdos have caused nothing but pain and suffering in the comic book world for so long. their interpretations of everything is wrong because they base everything based on feeling and not fact. And what I say is not based on my opinion. It's based on actual evidence and facts from 80 years of Batman comics. And I can back up every single one of my claims with a book where Batman had thoughts about, like, you know, guilt and suffering, but never thoughts of self-harm. He has survivor's guilt. He has, you know, guilt from taking his parents to the movies, guilt for choosing to go down the alleyway because he was impatient, guilt for getting into a fight with his parents in some versions. Like, sometimes it's his birthday and he didn't get what he wanted for his birthday, so he made his parents feel bad and they died that night. He has lots of guilt for what happened. But what he doesn't have is the mindset of, well, I don't want to be here anymore, because his life is not his own. He gave his life. That's what a vow is. People don't understand what vows are. A vow is a dedication. A vow is an acknowledgement, a spoken word that binds you to what you want. In marriage, you make a vow to your spouse that you will be with them in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, until death do you part. I'm celebrating 20 years of that vow in June, because that vow means something. Dedicating my life to my wife means something to her, and it means something to me. It is an action that I do that is based on what I said I would do. In front of 100 people, in front of God. It has value. It has meaning. Batman's vow as an 8-year-old, I love how people are making fun of. They're like, how can an 8-year-old do that? It's like, well, he's a fictional character, but also there are people that when tragedy happens, they don't do selfish things to themselves. They think about what the other person wanted for them and they improve their life. Their death becomes an inspiration for something more, something greater, something bigger than themselves. The problem with most of these people, this is my last closing thought, is they look inward, not outward. They don't care about other people. They only care about themselves. They are selfish. And I'm going to leave you with that.